everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today I'm going to be unboxing a game called Dungeon Degenerates Hand of Doom. This comes from Goblinko, and it's worth mentioning that on a recent video, about a week ago or so, in my top 15 solo horror board game list, this game was mentioned. It was the only one on the list that I haven't played, but I've watched enough playthroughs to know that this is going to be right up my alley, and I feel very comfortable about that recommendation. I'm looking forward to, in the future, doing some gameplay on this one. Not sure when exactly it will land, but I'm excited to get to it. But without further ado, this video is going to show you everything you can expect to find inside the Hand of Doom core box. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the back of the box and then check out all the components inside. Dungeon Degenerates is a 1 to 4 player co-op game, so it can absolutely be played and enjoyed solo. Players can form parties or split up throughout the game at will. There is no obligation to stick together. Gameplay is about 1 to 3 hours based on the mission. Of course, if you're playing solo, it's going to likely be on the lower end of that spectrum. Dungeon Degenerates has an epic RPG campaign feel in an open world sandbox board game, and you bring your experience and items from previous missions onward with you. There are multiple missions and objectives of varying difficulty with multiple ways to approach each mission. The game is set in a cohesive and fixed world with multiple district regions which feature unique encounters and thematic monsters. Encounters allow multiple interaction choices. You do not have to fight everybody you run into, and play features an open experience system allowing for your character customization with new skills. Now, you're always in danger. The town is not an artificial safe zone. Combat is obviously going to be dangerous as well. There are various modes of travel. Players can cooperate to choose their route and pace, or split up and fend for themselves. The game features streamlined combat with tactical depth, and each player will roll dice only once on their turn using standard D6 sided dice only, and there are over 100 monsters with unique abilities and artwork. Now, speaking of dice, I went ahead and went a little bit nuts and actually upgraded the dice that come inside this core box. I'll talk more about those dice I picked up in order to just bolster the look of the game and just the feel of the dice in hand as I roll them to match the crazy artwork as well as the crazy colors inside this game. But first, this is what you see when you open up the box. You're going to see a number of dashboards for the different heroes, in quotation marks, that you're going to be going ahead and controlling. You've also got some reference sheets here, and the print quality on these right off the bat are going to impress you. And there's tokens down below as well. So let's go through the first handful of components inside this box. The game includes a whole bunch of very interesting individuals. We have the Corpse Burner, we have the Void Witch, the Mercenary Alchemist, the Vermin Hunter, the Witch Smeller, Bloodsport Brawler, Hinterlander, and the Bog Conjurer. Now, on the backside of each of these dashboards, you're going to actually have the crime, the homeland, suggested skills, and suggested weaknesses that correspond to each of these individuals, as well as some backstory for each of them. We'll just go through them quickly, and if you want to go ahead and read any of their backstories or any of the information provided on these dashboards, feel free to pause along the way. As I mentioned earlier on, the print quality for the dashboards themselves here are very high quality, and that's exactly the same for the reference cards you can see on the far right hand side. These references are going to give you things like the sequence of play and icon references. They're going to really help you to grasp the rules and also keep these handy as you learn the game and move through it. We'll take a close-up look at those references first, and then we'll check out the rules and the missions booklets. Here's a look at the sequence of play reference sheet, as well as map actions, rest actions, locations, and territory listed out in the top right. Locations in terms of where they connect to for Riverport and destinations, all captured on this side of the reference sheet. On the opposite side, you're going to find things like advancing the Doom track, the danger card icons, and the large counters all listed out. The other reference sheet inside the box has the icons all listed out. It's going to also cover any short form words or abbreviations to give an idea as to what they all mean. On the far right hand side, we have the adventurer status conditions all listed out too. Finally, we have the combat round laid out and the actions which happen inside of combat, things like unarmed strike, escape, equip, and exchange. And then it talks about the combat dice on the right-hand side with defense rolls and attack rolls. Next up, we're going to take a look inside the rulebook to see how it's laid out. I'm not going to go through every single page in here, but to give you a good idea as to how this thing is structured. The rulebook starts things off with a large introduction in the top left-hand corner, as well as a list out of all the components we're going to go through in this unboxing video, and then it's going to talk about the map overview on the right. Here's an example as to how the rulebook depicts all the information around the map overview, breaking things out into regions and danger levels and town levels, bounty levels, the river, the tomb lake, map space traits, and so on. Shortly after, you're thrust right into setting up the game, and you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner an example of what it looks like on the table when it's all set up. This is for a 4-player game. You'll see 4 of the character dashboards down there, so if you're playing solo, you may not be controlling all 4 characters, but that will be up to you to decide. The last page I'm going to show here is around the game turns. You can see the map action phase listed out, map actions that you can take, locations you can go to, and how traveling works. So at this point, you've got a rough idea as to how this rulebook looks and feels. Let's jump into the next book here. This one's all around the missions in the game. Similar to the rulebook, you have an introduction, table of contents, and then it moves right into the missions, or using the missions. You can start a campaign, you set up your mission, you gotta get your mission deck organized, get your objectives in order, and your special rules, rewards, and so on. All of it mentioned here. The mission book includes 20 missions broken apart throughout the book, and you'll see the titles of each of these missions in the top left-hand corner with the black banner in green. So On the Run is the very first one, and there's many more beyond that. This game really does aim to be an RPG feel in a board game by giving you a campaign that you can truly go on and progress mission through mission. As you can see on the back of the mission booklet, it's very similar, if not exactly the same, to one of the pages that are on one of the giant reference sheets that you can have close by. So you likely won't need to use this, but you do have another place to look to reference the sequence of play, map actions, and so on. But I definitely recommend grabbing those reference sheets and keeping them handy, as that's what they were designed for. Taking a look back inside the box, we have a whole bunch of punchboards to go through. One thing I'll make mention of that may or may not show up on camera that well, but the thickness of these punchboards and the quality, the sheen, and the gloss on these punchboards are really, really nice. This is something that I don't see very often when going through and punching any board game. So let's go ahead and take a look at each of these up close. Next up inside the box is a big map, and this map is vivid, very colorful, and you'll see each of the different major areas of the game broken up by color. It's a really nice looking board, and even though when I originally saw this game years ago and wasn't necessarily drawn to the artwork, for some strange reason recently, this has really piqued my interest, and I actually look at this now with a completely different appreciation than I did when I first saw it many moons ago. So really excited to actually get this thing to the table because the colors are unlike anything I have in my collection. There is some fantastic artwork that really makes you feel like you're moving around throughout this insane landscape, going to all these different locations and encountering all these different types of monsters. Of course, you'll see a number of those when we go through the cards, but I do want to point out that I'm a big fan of the art itself. Even with the color removed out of the equation, it's drawn me right in. The map is broken into 4 major territories. The one you're looking at right now is the Highlands territory, and this encompasses the Foothills and Slavers Pass, which is in orange and pink respectively. On the right-hand side here, we have the Badlands territories. So this makes up the Blasted Heath, the Burning Lakes, and the Wasteland. These are in dark red, purple, and red respectively. The bottom left-hand corner of the map has the Lowlands territories, which has the Fields and the Witchwood, and they're both in dark blue. And last but certainly not least, in the bottom right, we have the wetlands territories, the Rotting Swamp and Tomb Lake in green. With the Punchboards, booklets, and the game board out of the way, we now reach the bottom layer of the box, which has a place for the cards that come in the game. We have 3 stacks to go through of the standard size, and then some mini cards in the top right. We have some dice down below with some standees and some baggies to keep things organized. Let's first check out the dice. I'm going to also talk about the upgrades I picked up for the game, which I will tell you were actually quite hard to find at this point because some of these dice are almost near impossible to locate, but I managed to find them and I think they fit the game fantastically in terms of the color. Here are the dice that come inside the base game. They're a bit smaller than the average size die, and by a bit I mean quite a bit, and they remind me of the dice that come in the Shadows of Brimstone games, which I do like them being this small when you're rolling a large amount of dice because it just makes handling them that much easier. But because you're not going to be rolling a lot of dice in this game on average per roll, then I'd actually prefer them to be a bit bigger. Now you've got 2 here of each different color, and I went ahead and found some Chessex dice that I really think are going to make the game pop even better using them versus these ones. Here are the dice that I found instead, and these are an average size D6. I really like the colors in these, and I think they're going to match the game fantastically. Plus, they're just going to be easier to manage and a little bit more fun to roll while playing the game. Without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at each and every card that comes in the core box. And that's going to wrap up this unboxing of Dungeon Degenerates Hand of Doom, the core box. You've now seen everything you can expect to find inside of this box, and hopefully it helps you make an informed decision on whether or not this game is for you. Stay tuned to the channel as I'm aiming to put together some coverage in the future to show you how the game flows and operates. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.